Passwords suck. You're here to you're here to hear me talk about getting rid of passwords. But before we can do that, before we can even start thinking about that, we're going to need some history. We need to know why we ever used them in the first place and why they've stuck around even though we don't like them. Who likes passwords in here? Okay, we got one. All right. I'm Ryan Hiebert. You can find me all over as Ryan Hiebert, Twitter, Fostodon, Medium, LinkedIn, GitHub. That's me. Identity is the key problem that passwords were invented to solve. Well, sort of. Identification is actually pretty easy. All you need to have to solve identification is a username field. And I guess if that's what you're trying to solve, there's nothing particularly wrong with this. Maybe we could make it easier by remembering the username the next time they come back to the website or something like that. But no, what we're actually trying to solve is not identification, it's authentication. We don't just want to know who you are, we want you to prove it. We can't trust that people are who they say they are because one liar ruins things for everybody, and sometimes with disastrous consequences. And the more we rely on it, the bigger the incentives get to act really, really badly, like stealing somebody's identity for nefarious gain. We need to find some way to establish this trust. Introducing the password. Passwords are simple, but they aren't easy. If done right, they're very easy to use and are able to thwart bad actors very effectively. But it's very easy not to use passwords right. My son just got his first games on the Nintendo Switch. He's very excited. He got Minecraft, and then he got something else. I can't remember anymore. You know, I'm a good parent, I think, so I set him up with his own Nintendo account, and it's hooked up to my parent account. And so whenever he goes into the store and wants to look at some game that's that's above 10, because he's only 9, he's got to get me to type my password on that annoying little touch screen so that I can give approval for him to do it. And then approval again if he actually wants to get the game. So I'm typing this password, and I go into my password manager, and I have to look it up and copy it. And what a pain in the butt. And I'm complaining to him. And he said, you know what? I have a great idea for a password. Anybody guess what it is? It's password. That's right. People have a knack for creating absolutely horrible passwords. We've used a variety of techniques to help us deal with this issue. We tried complexity requirements, length requirements, make it longer. Okay, that helps. We can look for some common problem passwords, like password, or things like other information about your user. Is your password your name? Let's not let you do that. Your birthday. Let's see if we can avoid that. But none of these methods are foolproof. They might stop the most common insecure passwords, but there's still a host of insecure passwords that we just don't have the reasonable ability to protect against. Plus, it's super annoying when you're going to a website trying to pick a password, and then you get there and that site tells you your password sucks. Or even worse, your password is too good for them. Okay, or let's say we get our users to figure out what a good password actually looks like. Don't use this one, but it's an example of something that might be good. So now the user's thinking, all right, I have a secure password. So they use it everywhere. Password reuse causes otherwise secure passwords to become dangerously insecure. The sites you're putting the password into won't all keep your passwords safe. And even worse, when that shared password wasn't a good one in the first place. So now we, the creators of sites that want to have users, we have to protect these passwords. Because if somebody gets into our account, we don't know what that password is protecting on some other site. It could be something very important, so we have to be very careful. But wow, is it easy to implement this wrong? Real quickly, you have security concerns for the database, the API, the applications. If any of those get compromised, passwords are going through it, that can get it. Or in your storage, you need to hash the password so that you can't read it, and you've got to make sure that it doesn't go too fast, or else you can generate a whole bunch of guesses really fast and figure out what it was. So you have computational complexity and memory capacity, things that if you don't have a computationally complex password algorithm, then you can just you can get a beefier machine and you can spin up a whole bunch of guesses a lot faster. Or if the guesses don't take very much memory, then you can put a whole bunch of memory and do them all in parallel, okay? You need to salt those. You need to make sure you're doing enough iterations to make things really slow. You need to make sure you have a good source of entropy or randomness as you're going into it. That's a lot of stuff. It's confusing, and it's very easy to get it implement it wrong. If implementing passwords in your app doesn't scare you, you're not thinking about it hard enough. It's super scary. Even when it's the best choice, it's still scary. And passwords are easy to forget. So even after you do all that work to make the password secure, you still have to find ways to allow users to change their password when, not if, they forget them. Well, we have these problems with what users might do insecurely with them. So how do we fix that a little bit? Passwords are still great. We can't take them away. Well, we can layer on multi-factor. You can have something you know, like your password or a PIN number. You have something you have, like your phone usually, or the device you're working on. And you have something you are, a biometric, your Face ID, fingerprint sensor, things like that. And by layering these, we can create a more secure system overall. All right, that's great. But you know what? This is just a lot of complexity. Let's stop. There has got to be a better way to do this. And you know, I've been thinking about passwords for entirely too long, and I was happy to see the industry thinking, man, these passwords are terrible. What can we do? So we had federation was the good idea. How about we just make that somebody else's problem? I'm not going to do it. You're going to do it. I'm going to let somebody else do that. All right, so first iteration, what does that look like? This is SAML. So you have educational institutions and big companies, organizations. They have directories of their users. They control them and maintain them. And you can have a single sign-on experience where you're going to some other site. They see, oh, I see who you are, and I need you to get you authenticated, but I don't have your password, so I'm going to send you over to the site that I know is your identity provider. They're going to make sure you are who you're saying you are. They'll send you back, and I'll know that I can trust them. And this works really well. SAML is still the most common implementation of single sign-on. But single sign-on is kind of annoying because then you have it for each company. You know, this isn't one thing that you have for all of your users. And so it's kind of a complex machine to manage. And it doesn't help your end users, the ones that aren't at a company, that are just doing things for themselves. And this is a concern. We want to solve this. Well, how do we extend this idea to more people? Well, OpenID came out. We had sites like Stack Overflow. That was my favorite one. And you could just type an email address or what looked like an email address into a box for OpenID. It would figure out which identity provider it needed to send you to. It would send you over there. You'd authenticate there, and you'd come back, and you'd be authenticated. They never had to have your passwords. This was great. Another iteration of it, OpenID Connect, kind of built on different material, different underlying protocols, kind of conforming to some best practices in the industry. And this idea from the original OpenID of having an email address that you type in and it'll send you to the right place, I've never seen that implemented in OpenID Connect. It's because along the way, they figured out, you know what, when end users are coming to my site, they may have it set up for OpenID, but how do I know that I can trust that identity provider with giving me good information? We can say, well, it's just the users that are choosing, but like with passwords, users can choose wrong. So that ends up being a real challenge. OpenID Connect, I think, is still great. It's, I think, a better implementation of SAML. If you're looking at implementing SAML or OpenID Connect and you don't have to do interoperability with a lot of other people, I think OpenID Connect is a lot better protocol to work on as a base. But we still have this issue. Well, so if we can't just trust users to figure out who they're going to go to as their identity provider, we can't just let them choose. Well, maybe we can choose for them. We're going to choose what's acceptable. And this is what we get. We get social logins. And we could just log in with Google. Or what we've seen is people want to sign in with Google or with Apple or with a whole bunch of things. And you know what? This isn't a great login experience. I don't, if I get 3 options, I don't know which one to use anymore. I have a Twitter, I have a Google account, I have Apple, and I don't remember which one I signed in with. How am I supposed to do this? This is confusing for a user. We've made the experience worse because we don't want to have passwords. Somebody said, you know what, we got a bright idea. And I was really excited when the industry kind of swarmed on this idea. Because in reality, we don't just have a username and password in our forms. What we actually usually have is an email and a password and a forgot your password link, right? Because they're always going to forget their password, and we need to know some way to recover it, and that's the email. So we use that as the identity. That's great. And they click on forgot your password, they type in their email address, and they get an email that says, click here to reset your password. So we already have to have this as application developers. Why don't we just use that to log in? So that's what we did. Just click here to log in. So now we don't have to store the password anymore. Just whenever you need to log in, it'll send you an email, you go to your email, and you click to log in. That's all we have. The form is simplified. The password is gone. Okay, things get a little bit confusing because, well, what if the device that you have your email on isn't the same one that you need to log into your website or whatever on? That can happen. Okay, well, we can send a little different email. Looks like this. And it gives a code, and you put the login code in there. And that works. Is anyone annoyed by this already? Have you? Yes. Having to go to your email, copy and paste a code, or it's annoying. All right, so you know what we're back at? We're back at passwords. After all that, we find that in most cases there are compromises that leave passwords, again, as the best overall experience for users, especially when we take that in conjunction with another major development, password managers. Password managers help you to generate truly random passwords. They sync them between devices. They help us to avoid password reuse. It'll flag it if you've used the same password on multiple sites, and it'll autofill it in your browser and in your apps. And it's built into our devices. We have Keychain. We have Google Chrome Sync and Firefox Sync. It'll remember your passwords. Everybody's relying on this now. Or if you really wanted to cross all your devices, you can use something like 1Password. It's great. This is the best way to use passwords. Now we can talk about passkeys. So passkeys are cryptographically secure. Instead of a password, there's no string to write down. There's no magic secret. There's no shared secret there. You don't have to write it down. You don't have to memorize it. There's no shared secret on the server either. This is public key cryptography, so you have one key on the client, one key on the server, and as an implementer, I can't cause a breach in another service because they can't use the same key to log into another service. It's impossible. Passkeys are inherently multi-factor. Passkeys are implemented on your phone, on my Mac here with Touch ID. They're implemented into Windows with PIN codes. So however you log into your device, that's one factor. And because you have your device as well, that's two factors in order to use the passkey. In practice, I'm already on my computer when I'm trying to log in, so it just asked me to tap my fingerprint real quick, and I'm logged in. That's all I had to do for my passkey. But I've got two factors. So passkeys are inherently multi-factor, and they're widely supported. Approximately 90% of worldwide requests, according to caniuse.com. We can use them. So now, this is what login looks like with passkeys. You just have a login button. You still have to register, but that's a different thing. But even better, we can use passkeys with our current login forms. We don't have to have a greenfield application. The conditional UI is the same type of UI. It's integrated with the same UI as your password manager. So when you're using a passkey, it feels like you're selecting a password, you're selecting an account from your password manager. We already know how to do this as users. All right, so we'll attempt a little demo here. See how this goes. Oh, I have to switch my screen. That's not big enough. All right, so here's a demo site that's using passkeys. So to sign up, you still need to give your email address because we still have to do account recovery. And we have to know who you are. And passkeys support having multiple accounts on the same site. So this works really well. You can use multiple emails. Yes, I want to create a new account. That sounds like a good idea. All right, now they know who we are, and we need to register our passkey. So we create this passkey. It asks me to authenticate, so I'm going to use Touch ID on my computer to do this. Asking for permission, that doesn't happen every time. And now I'm registered. Okay. That's it. I never typed a password. My passkey is registered. This is Firefox, and with Firefox Sync, this is available on all my devices that are using passkeys, that are using Firefox. If I was using 1Password, which I use most of the time, that's going to be on all my devices already. This is great. All right, well, what does the sign-in look like? I'm hitting the login page, and all I have to do is click sign in with a passkey and do the second factor authentication, and I'm in. There's no password, and this is easy. All right, and these are some resources that you might find useful, and that's my talk.
I'll lead off real quick, but I'll come over to y'all. So do Passkeys require this hardware biometric data to be implemented, or 1Password or some other mechanism? Like essentially, if I open up my old laptop, will they work? Or do I have to keep using passwords for those?
So there are some devices on Windows particularly, I think of, that don't have biometrics, and they'll enter a PIN code instead. So instead of using biometrics, they're going to use something you know, but it's going to be on the local authenticator. It's never going to leave your computer, and what goes between the client and the server is always going to be stuff you never have to think about. There's no shared secrets there.
So what do you see as like the main barriers to adoption for Passkeys? Because I've used them a handful of times, but they're still like not on every site that I want them to be on, obviously.
That's the main barrier. They're not on every site. And there's a chicken and egg problem a little bit. We have some movement. They're in the browsers, so we can use them. But once you've got an authentication going, it's hard to say, oh, I'm going to stop everything I'm doing to write passkeys in. You know, some of the big players are doing that, and I'm using them where I can. But like my company, they don't care if we have passkeys or not. That's not a concern that makes sense for our business at this point. Well, hopefully I'll get to do that soon.
Do you think there are any barriers to users adopting them beyond just like websites having them?
Yeah, there are some barriers. It's not supported everywhere yet. I said it's 90%. I think most of us, especially in the United States, are going to have devices that support them very well. But if you're in a global market and you need to be careful for all of your users, you might not be able to use it there. Of course, there's the concern of we already have an existing customer base. They're using passwords. We can't just force them all to go to Passkeys right now. Probably not ever. The way new protocols work, you have to keep them alive forever, the old ones. But yeah, as things get more common, then we can use it more. I think if I was writing a new site that was for a relatively small audience that I could kind of have an understanding of what they were doing, I'd probably not even bother putting a password because I can use a passkey instead. I think there's still some fiddliness about the syncing or about cross-device authentication. One thing I didn't show is you can, if you don't have it on your device, you have it on your phone, you don't have it on your laptop, you can have it show a QR code that you take a picture or that you use with your phone and pull it up. And your phone can authenticate the passkey it has and put things and log in that other device so that you can register a new passkey on that other device. It's really, really cool. I haven't actually gotten that to work personally. I haven't tried really hard, so so I don't know if it's just me or maybe that I'm using 1Password and that makes things weird. That's quite possible. I haven't had any, I said something about syncing. I haven't had any issues with syncing, especially with 1Password. So I hear some chatter about passkeys that people are having trouble. I really haven't had trouble personally with it.
Are passkeys largely managed like the same way a password would be handled? So, for instance, you may have a local database on your phone, or you'll have like your example of 1Password, and that's what handles syncing between. Basically, I know I had seen a while back that like Google had rolled out that you could use your Android phone as a passkey device, and my concern with that was, okay, what happens if my phone breaks? Like, how do I get that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So Apple has keychain, Google has account syncing, their password syncing as well, and that's cross-device. So if you're on an Android phone, you're probably syncing that up to Google Cloud, your passwords, and as long as you're doing that, that's going to be available for you on the next device that you log into. So that's one of the great things about the current implementation. You still have this segregation between the Apple ecosystem, keychain, and Google. And so if you have it logged into your Apple devices and you're not using something like 1Password, and you need to log into a Google device or a Chrome browser or something, well, then you'll have to do that cross-platform authentication in order to register another passkey in that ecosystem. So they're kind of separated that way. But inside of those ecosystems that we rely on heavily anyway, they get synchronized. So the same boundaries that you have for your password managers, that's the boundaries you're going to have for your passkey management as well.
You may have just answered this, but I want to make sure I got it clear. So in your example where you said you had Firefox and you're not using 1Password, and that you set up a passkey for that, and then you go from your laptop to your desktop and you're using same Firefox, but you're not syncing, can you set up a passkey for each device on the same email address?
So yes. This is the standard implementation, is that for one account on a website, you can have lots of passkeys. You can think, passkey is kind of evolved from U2F and FIDO tokens, where the idea was that it was your second factor, and you have a little device you plug in, USB, and you tap it. So they expected that you're going to have lots of these devices. And we have the same expectation with passkeys. For a single account, you're going to use a bunch of passkeys. We're not going to limit you there. Now, I mean, theoretically, a site could say, well, I only support one passkey for a user, but that'd be a terrible site. So.
I have a similar question, or kind of related. Let's say I want to sign in, or I need to sign in to an account of mine that I have a passkey for, but on your computer. How would I do that without also generating a passkey that's now on your computer?
So the authentication itself, the cross-device authentication, doesn't create a new passkey automatically, I think. I think what it does is log you in, and then once you're logged in, you can then generate a passkey on that new device. So, I mean, don't log into somebody else's device and walk away because they could register a passkey, but that's kind of, you don't leave your account open on somebody else's device anyway, so kind of standard advice, I think.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.